I woke up alone in my hospital bed 3 days after emergency gallbladder surgery. I reached for my phone and saw a single text from my husband, Gerald. At the airport. Mom insisted we not miss this trip. You understand, back in 2 weeks. I scrolled up and found a family group chat filled with excited messages about their Paris vacation, departure gate updates, and selfies at the terminal. Not one person asked how my surgery went. The morphine pump beeped steadily beside me as I stared at their smiling faces on the screen. The silence in that hospital room felt heavier than anything I'd experienced in my 60 years of life. Bonita. And I'd been married to Gerald for 32 years. We had 2 children. Our son Bradley, who was 30 years old and married to a woman named Claire, and our daughter Samantha, who was 28. Looking at their faces on that screen, laughing at some European airport, I tried to remember when I'd stopped mattering to them. The pain from my surgery was substantial. They'd removed my gallbladder through emergency surgery after I'd spent 6 hours in the worst agony of my life. I'd called Gerald that morning when the pain started, but he was at his mother's house. Dorothy had been planning this European river cruise for months. When I told him I thought something was seriously wrong, he said, "Take some Tums. I'm sure it's just indigestion." By noon, I couldn't stand upright. I called an ambulance myself, rode alone to the hospital, and went through admission, tests, and pre-surgery consultations without a single family member present. The surgeon told me later that my gallbladder had been severely infected and on the verge of rupturing. "You're lucky you came in when you did," he said. "Another few hours and this could have been life-threatening." I'd called Gerald from the recovery room, groggy and frightened. He answered on the 5th ring. "Hey, what's up? We're just finishing dinner at Mom's." "I had emergency surgery," I whispered. "They took my gallbladder. It was infected." There was a pause. "Oh. Well, are you okay now?" "I'm in the hospital. They're keeping me for a few days." Another pause. Then Dorothy's voice in the background. "Is that Bonita? Tell her we're discussing the trip details." "Listen," Gerald said, his voice already distracted. "Mom spent a fortune on this cruise. She's 81 years old. This might be her last big trip. You're in good hands at the hospital. You'll be fine. Gerald, I need you here." "Bonita, don't be dramatic. It's just gallbladder surgery. People have that done all the time. I'll check in with you, okay?" He hung up before I could respond. The next morning, I woke to that text message. They'd left. All of them. Bradley, Samantha, even Claire. An entire European vacation that Dorothy had paid for everyone except me. When I'd asked about it months ago, Dorothy had said, "Oh, dear, the package only covered 5 people. You understand. 5 people, her son, her 2 grandchildren, and her grandson's wife. Not the woman who'd been married to her son for over 3 decades. The nurses on the ward were kind. A woman named Patricia, maybe 50 years old with gentle eyes, was my primary nurse. On day 4, she came in to check my vitals and found me staring at my phone, tears running down my face. "Honey, where is your family?" she asked softly. "Europe," I said. "River cruise." Her face changed. "They left you here alone?" I nodded. Patricia sat down on the edge of my bed, something nurses technically aren't supposed to do. "My ex-husband left me when I was going through cancer treatment," she said quietly. "Told me I was too depressing to be around. I know what it feels like to be abandoned when you need someone most." We talked for nearly an hour that day. She told me about rebuilding her life, about discovering her own worth, about the peace that comes from releasing people who don't value you. I listened, but I wasn't ready to hear it yet. I was still making excuses in my mind. They'd planned this trip so long ago. Dorothy had guilted them. Gerald would make it up to me. But the days passed, and the calls from Gerald became shorter and less frequent. "Can't talk long. We're about to board the boat. Sorry. Bad connection here. We're at dinner. I'll call you tomorrow." He never called tomorrow. Meanwhile, my phone filled with pictures. The family at the Eiffel Tower, all smiling broadly. Gerald and Dorothy on the deck of a river cruise ship. Samantha and Claire clinking champagne glasses in some French cafe. Bradley giving a thumbs up in front of the Arc de Triomphe. Not a single one asked how I was recovering. On day 6, I was sitting up in bed, forcing myself to take small walks around the ward as instructed, when I checked our bank account on my phone. We had joint access to everything, always had. What I saw made my stomach drop worse than any gallbladder pain. Gerald had withdrawn $8,000 3 days before the trip. The memo line said, Europe expenses. $8,000 had never discussed with me. Our credit cards, which I now checked frantically, were maxed out. $17,000 in new charges over the past month. Hello, I'm delighted to assist you with our voice services. Choose a voice that resonates with you, and let's begin our creative audio journey together. I was scrolling through Facebook while waiting for the taxi, and Samantha had posted a new update. Having the time of our lives. Gran surprised us and extended the trip another week. More adventures ahead. Another week. They'd used our emergency fund, the account we'd been building for years for genuine crises, to extend a luxury vacation. And no one had asked me. No one had even told me until I saw it on social media. I sat in that taxi, watching my house come into view, and felt something break inside me. Not my heart, something deeper. The part of me that had spent 32 years putting everyone else first, believing that sacrifice equaled love, thinking that if I just gave enough, it'd matter to them. I was done breaking myself to hold them together. The taxi pulled into the driveway of our 4-bedroom suburban home. The house I'd maintained and filled with love for 3 decades. I paid the driver, slowly climbed out with my overnight bag, and stood looking at the place I'd called home since Bradley was 2 years old. The front flower beds were overgrown with weeds. The porch light had burned out. The welcome mat was filthy. I unlocked the front door and stepped into chaos. Dishes were piled in the sink, crusted with food from the morning they'd left. The trash can overflowed onto the kitchen floor. Laundry was scattered across the living room couch. Half-packed suitcases sat in the hallway. Things they'd decided not to take at the last minute just abandoned where they fell. They'd left in a rush, eager to start their vacation, and hadn't spared a single thought for what they were leaving behind. On the kitchen counter, under a coffee mug, I found a note in Gerald's handwriting. Bonita, please water the plants and get the mail while we're gone. Make sure you rest. Love you. I read it 3 times. Please water the plants. Make sure you rest. I'd just had emergency surgery. I could barely stand upright, and his primary concern was the plants. I walked slowly through the house, each room revealing more evidence of the life I'd been living. In Gerald's office, his desk was covered with receipts and paperwork. I sat down in his chair, my incision aching, and started going through it. What I found made me physically ill. A boat. Gerald had bought a boat last year for $42,000. I'd known about the boat, but I thought he'd gotten a deal. Paid maybe $15,000. The paperwork told a different story. $42,000, financed at 8% interest. Monthly payments of $637. Golf club membership, $8,000 annually. I'd thought it was $2,000. Season tickets to our local NFL team, $4,500 per year. Head told me they were a gift from a client. I kept digging. Every file, every folder, every receipt painted the same picture. Gerald spent money like water on himself while I'd been rationing groceries. Then I found the family iPad, the one we all shared, plugged in and charging on his desk. I opened the Messages app, something I'd never thought to do before. The conversation between Gerald and his mother Dorothy went back months. I scrolled to the top and started reading. Gerald. Mom, I don't know what to do. Bonita is so controlling about money. I can't breathe. Dorothy. You're a grown man, dear. You deserve to enjoy your life. Don't let her hold you back. Gerald. She freaked out about the boat, said we couldn't afford it. Dorothy. Ridiculous. You work hard. You earned that boat. She's always been too cautious. The conversations went on and on. Gerald complaining. Dorothy encouraging him to spend, to live his life, to stop letting me control him. Then I found the messages about the Europe trip. Dorothy. I've decided not to include Bonita in the trip package. It's time to prioritize your real family. Gerald. She's going to be upset. Dorothy. Let her be upset. You, the children, and I are the core family. She needs to understand her place. I sat staring at those words. Understand her place. I'd given this woman's son 32 years of my life. I'd raised his children, kept his home, supported his career, cared for his mother when she was sick. And my place was outside the family. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the iPad. I kept reading. More recent messages, from just 2 weeks before my surgery. Dorothy, the trip is almost here. I'm so excited to have this time with you and the children. Gerald. Bonita's going to complain about being left out. Dorothy. She's always complaining. Honestly, Gerald, you've been too patient with her. You're still a young man. You have options. Gerald. I've been thinking about that. I clicked on the photos Head shared with his mother. Screenshots of text messages to someone named Diane. Flirty messages. Nothing explicitly physical, but the emotional intimacy was clear. Thinking about you. Can't wait to see you next week. You understand me in ways no one else does. My husband was having an emotional affair. I set the iPad down carefully, walked to the bathroom, and vomited. When I came back, I forced myself to keep searching. In the bottom drawer of Harold's desk, hidden under old tax returns, I found a manila folder. Inside were divorce papers. They were dated from 6 months ago, prepared by a lawyer named Thomas Garrett. Gerald hadn't filed them yet, but Head had them drawn up. I read through page after page of legal language, but the attachment at the end was crystal clear. A financial analysis showing how Gerald planned to structure the divorce to leave me with as little as possible. He was going to claim the house was primarily his because his income paid the mortgage. Never mind that I'd used my inheritance from my father, $48,000, for the down payment. He was going to argue that his retirement accounts shouldn't be split because Head earned them. He was going to push for me to take responsibility for half the credit card debt while he kept his boat, his golf membership, his toys. I sat in that office for 2 hours, just staring at those papers. My phone buzzed. The family group chat. Samantha had posted a photo of all of them at some Italian restaurant in France, fancy pasta dishes and wine glasses catching the light. The caption, "Living our best lives." Patricia had asked me what I was going to do. Now I knew. I picked up my phone and called a lawyer. The law office of Margaret Foster was in a renovated brick building downtown. I'd found her through an internet search, aggressive family law attorney. Her reviews were stellar. Doesn't back down. Fights for her clients. Finally got me what I deserved. She could see me that same afternoon. Margaret was a woman in her mid-50s, with silver hair cut short and sharp eyes that missed nothing. I walked into her office carrying a folder full of documents. The hidden divorce papers, bank statements, credit card bills, the boat purchase agreement, screenshots of Gerald's messages with his mother and with Diane. "Tell me everything," Margaret said. I did. 32 years of marriage. 3 days ago, emergency surgery, family on vacation in Europe, the financial discoveries, the divorce papers, all of it. When I finished, Margaret sat back in her chair and studied me. "How are you feeling right now, Bonita?" "Angry," I said. "And done." "Good. Anger is useful. It means you're ready to fight." She opened the folder and started going through my documentation. "This is excellent record keeping. You've essentially built your own case. What are my options?" Margaret tapped the divorce papers. "He hasn't filed these yet, which means you can file first. That gives you certain strategic advantages. But more importantly, right now, today, you're still married. That means you have equal legal right to all marital assets. The house is in both our names," I said. "Tell me about the down payment." "My father died 12 years ago. He left me $48,000. We used it for the down payment on the house. I have the documentation, the inheritance paperwork, the deposit records." Margaret smiled. "That's a significant separate property contribution. Combined with everything else you've shown me, you have a strong case." She leaned forward. "But here's what concerns me. These divorce papers, this financial analysis, they show intent. Has been planning to leave you and financially devastate you in the process. The question is, are you going to wait for him to execute his plan? Or are you going to protect yourself first?" What does protecting myself look like? It looks like moving fast while he's out of the country. It looks like securing your share of assets before he can hide or spend them. It looks like making sure you're not left with nothing when he decides to pull the trigger on this divorce. My heart was pounding. Is that legal? Everything I'm going to advise you to do is completely legal. You're not stealing anything. You're exercising your rights as a spouse to access and protect marital assets. But we need to move quickly. I thought about Gerald in some European cafe, laughing with his mother, texting Diane, planning his exit strategy while I recovered from surgery alone. "Tell me what to do," I said. Margaret pulled out a legal pad. "First, We file for legal separation with an emergency order protecting marital assets. That prevents him from draining accounts or making large purchases. Second, you document everything. Every asset, every debt, every dollar. Third, you make smart decisions about securing your financial future. The house, I said quietly. Can I sell it? Margaret looked up. You're a titled owner. Technically, yes, but it's complicated if you're still married. But legally possible. In your situation, with the documented evidence of his intent to divorce and financial abuse, a court would likely support your right to sell, especially if you can show that keeping the house isn't financially viable and that you're splitting the proceeds fairly. I told her about my friend Linda, the realtor, about the cash buyers who'd been looking in our neighborhood. Margaret thought for a long moment. How long is your husband gone? They extended the trip, 12 more days. Then we move fast. I'll file the separation papers today with an emergency order. You get the house appraised and on the market. If you can close before he returns, even better. Everything you do, you document. Every penny you spend, every decision you make, you keep records. Can you do that? Yes. One more thing. Margaret's voice was gentle now. What you've experienced is called financial abuse. Your husband has been controlling the money, spending freely while restricting you, hiding his plans, making you feel crazy for worrying about finances. That's abuse, Bonita. And it's grounds for a very favorable settlement. I felt tears coming. I just wanted him to love me. I know. But love doesn't abandon you in a hospital. Love doesn't plan to destroy you financially. Love doesn't prioritize a vacation over your health. She handed me a tissue. You're going to get through this. And when you do, you're going to be free. I left her office with a plan. That evening, Margaret filed the legal separation papers with an emergency protective order on our assets. The next morning, I called Linda. Linda came to the house that afternoon. She walked through every room, took measurements, made notes. The market's hot right now, she said. Houses in this neighborhood are going for about $420,000. You'd clear, maybe $385 after the mortgage and closing costs. How fast could it sell? I have a couple, young professionals relocating for work. They've been looking for 3 weeks, lost 2 bids. They're pre-approved, ready to move. If they like this house, they could close in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Gerald would still be in Europe for another 11 days, then home. The timeline was tight, but possible. Bring them tomorrow, I said. That night, I went through the house again, making lists. My grandmother's china, my mother's jewelry, the photo albums it assembled over 30 years, the artwork it inherited, the furniture my father had made. Everything that was mine, legally and emotionally, went on the list. The next day, Linda brought her buyers. They were a sweet couple in their early 30s, Emma and David, both engineers at the new tech company that had just opened across town. They walked through the house holding hands, getting excited about each room. It's perfect, Emma said. This is exactly what we've been looking for. They offered asking price, $420,000. Cash sale. Close in 3 weeks. I accepted. That same day, I drove Gerald's luxury sedan to a dealership. The car was in both our names. Purchased 2 years ago. He loved that car. Spent hours washing and waxing it every weekend. The dealer offered $18,000. The loan payoff was $9,000. I took the deal, paid off the loan, and walked away with $9,000 in cash. I bought myself a 7-year-old Honda Accord for $7,000. Reliable, good gas mileage, nothing fancy. I kept the remaining $2,000. Then I went to our bank and had a conversation with the manager. I showed him Margaret's legal separation filing and the protective order. I explained that I needed to secure my portion of marital assets before my husband could drain the accounts. The manager was sympathetic, professional, and helpful. We calculated what I was legally entitled to. Half of the joint checking and savings, minus the $8,000 Gerald had already withdrawn for the trip, and the $17,000 in credit card debt had racked up. I transferred my share to a new account at a different bank. $23,000. It wasn't much, considering 32 years of marriage, but it was mine. Over the next week, I worked methodically. I rented a storage unit and moved my personal belongings there. Everything on my list. Susan, my friend who'd been a paralegal before retiring, came to help. We packed carefully, documented everything with photos and itemized lists. I sorted through Gerald's belongings, the kids' old childhood items that they'd left in their rooms, all the things that were theirs but not mine. I rented a second storage unit in Gerald's name, prepaid for 3 months, and moved everything there. I left the address and access code in a sealed envelope on the kitchen counter. The house needed to be empty for the new buyers anyway. I drafted letters to each family member. To Gerald, I detailed every moment of the last 32 years when it'd been taken for granted, every sacrifice that went unnoticed, every time it'd chosen his needs over mine. I wrote about finding the divorce papers, about his plan to leave me destitute, about Diane. I kept it factual, not emotional. Just the truth. To Bradley, I reminded him of every soccer game I'd attended, every science project I'd helped with, every night I'd sat up when he was sick. I wrote about teaching him to drive, helping him through his first heartbreak, being there for his wedding. And then I wrote about him leaving me in a hospital bed to go drink champagne in Paris. To Samantha, I poured out the mother-daughter memories, the tea parties when she was 5, teaching her to bake, shopping for her prom dress, crying together when she didn't get into her first-choice college, celebrating when she got into her second. All the times I'd told her she was strong and capable, and how she'd repaid that by choosing her grandmother's cruise over her mother's surgery. To Dorothy, I wrote one paragraph. Cool, distant, dignified. I thanked her for showing me clearly where I stood in her son's life. I told her I hoped the cruise was worth the cost of losing a daughter-in-law who'd spent 3 decades trying to earn her approval. I sealed each letter in an envelope, ready to send when the time came. Then came the phone call that changed everything. Linda called on day 8. Bonita, the buyers want to close early. They've offered to pay an extra $5,000 for a 1-week closing. They need to be in the house by the 1st of the month for their jobs. 1 week, that would be the day before Gerald came home. Do it, I said. The closing happened on a Tuesday morning. I sat in the title company office and signed page after page. The new owners, Emma and David, were there too, excited and nervous. When it was done, the title officer handed me a check, $385,000. I walked out of that office and sat in my Honda for 10 minutes, just staring at the check. This was it. My exit. My freedom. My future. That afternoon, I booked a 1-way ticket to Santa Fe, New Mexico. My college roommate Teresa lived there, had been inviting me to visit for years. The flight left in 2 days. I had 1 day left before Gerald came home. I spent it at Susan's house, organizing my documents, finalizing my plans. Margaret called to tell me everything was filed and legal, all my ducks in a row. You did it, Bonita, she said. However, this plays out now. You're protected. The family was flying back the next day, arriving at 4:30 in the afternoon. I planned to be at Susan's house when they landed. I turned off my phone and slept better than I had in years. The next day, I woke up at Susan's house at 6 in the morning. Their flight was scheduled to land at 4:30 in the afternoon. I had 10.5 hours of peace before the explosion. Susan made coffee and we sat at her kitchen table. How are you feeling? She asked. Free, I said. And I meant it. At 9, I drove to my bank and deposited the check. $385,000. The teller's eyes widened, but she processed it professionally. I kept $10,000 in checking, put the rest in a money market account. Later, I'd invest properly, but for now, it was safe. At 11, I went to the post office and mailed the letters. 4 envelopes, certified mail, signature required. They'd arrive tomorrow. At 1, I had lunch with Patricia, my nurse from the hospital. We met at a small cafe downtown. You look different, she said when she saw me. I am different. I told her everything. She listened without interrupting, and when I finished, she reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I'm so proud of you, she said. So many women stay. They accept the scraps. You chose yourself. You helped me see that was possible. No, Patricia said firmly. I just held up a mirror. You did the hard part. At 4:15, I was back at Susan's house. My phone was still off. Susan's husband Tom, a retired police officer, was there too. Just in case, he said quietly. I appreciated it. At 4:47, Susan's phone rang. She looked at the caller ID and showed it to me. Gerald. We let it ring. Voicemail. Susan played it on speaker. Gerald's voice, confused and annoyed. Bonita, what's going on? I'm at the house, and my key doesn't work. Did you change the locks? Call me back. We looked at each other. Here we go, Susan said. 5:03. Another call. Gerald again. Voicemail. Bonita, this isn't funny. Where are you? Why won't you answer? Call me now. His voice had shifted from annoyed to angry. 5:28. Third call. Voicemail. I just talked to the neighbor. Mrs. Chen said she saw moving trucks last week. What the hell is going on? Where is all our furniture? Bonita, you better call me right now. I couldn't use Chen. The neighbor would be Mrs. Peterson. 5:45. Bradley calling Susan's phone. She declined it. 6:15. Gerald again. Furious now. Voicemail. I know you can hear these. This is insane. You can't just lock me out of my own house. I'm calling the police. Tom shook his head. Let him call. He doesn't have a leg to stand on legally. 6:52. Gerald calling from a different number. Dorothy's. Voicemail. Bonita, dear, this is Dorothy. I don't know what's happened, but Gerald is very upset. Whatever this is about, I'm sure we can discuss it rationally. Please call him back. Her voice was sweet, concerned, completely fake. At 7:30, I turned my phone back on. 43 missed calls, 27 voicemails, 62 text messages. I ignored all of them and opened my email. I composed a single message to the family group chat. Check your email. Everything you need to know is there. Then I sent 4 emails, one to each family member, with their personal letters attached as PDFs. I also attached copies of the hidden divorce papers, the financial documentation showing Gerald's spending, bank statements, his text messages with Dorothy and with Diane, and the storage unit information for their belongings. To everyone, I wrote the same message. I have filed for legal separation. The house has been sold. It closed yesterday. This was my legal right as a co-owner, particularly given the evidence of financial abuse and Harold's plan to divorce me while leaving me destitute. I have divided our marital assets fairly and legally. Your personal belongings are in a storage unit. The address and code are attached. All further communication should go through my attorney, Margaret Foster. Her contact information is below. I hit send. My phone exploded. Calls from Gerald, Bradley, Samantha, Dorothy, even Claire. I declined every one. The text messages came rapid fire. Bradley? Mom? What the hell? You sold our house? Are you out of your mind? Samantha. This is insane. You can't just do this. Dad is freaking out. Gerald. You vindictive witch. You'll pay for this. I'm calling my lawyer right now. Dorothy. I always knew you were unstable. This is unhinged behavior. I didn't respond to any of them. Then the emails came. Long, furious messages. Bradley accusing me of being crazy, of overreacting. Samantha saying I was tearing the family apart. Dorothy writing paragraphs about disrespect and how ungrateful daughters-in-law destroy families. Gerald's emails started with rage, threatening to sue me for everything, claiming I'd stolen his assets. Then, as he apparently read through the attachments, the tone shifted. Panic crept in. By the third email, he was backtracking. Those divorce papers were just me being upset. I never meant to file them. You can't believe I'd actually do that. This is a huge misunderstanding. I read every email, every text, every voicemail. I saved all of them. Documentation. At 8:30, Bradley sent a calmer message. Mom, please, just talk to us. We can fix this. I finally responded. One text message. I raised you in that house. I loved you in that house. You left me in a hospital bed to go drink champagne in Paris. It stopped being our house when you chose a cruise over your mother. No response came. At 9:15, Samantha tried a different approach. Mom, I'm sorry. We didn't realize how serious your surgery was. Grandma said you'd understand. I wrote back. I almost died. My gallbladder was about to rupture. The surgeon said I was hours away from sepsis. And you didn't realize it was serious because you didn't ask. You didn't care enough to ask. She didn't respond either. At 9:47, there was a knock on Susan's door. Tom looked through the window and swore softly. It's Gerald. My heart started pounding. Tom opened the door, but stood blocking the entrance. "I need to see my wife," Gerald said. He looked terrible, rumpled from travel, his face red and blotchy. "She doesn't want to see you," Tom said calmly. "That's my wife in there, and she's asked you to communicate through her attorney. This is ridiculous." "Bonita," Gerald shouted past Tom, "come out here and talk to me." I stood up and walked to the doorway where Gerald could see me. "Everything you need to know is in the emails. Talk to your lawyer, talk to Margaret. Don't contact me directly again." "You can't do this. That was my house. My money. Our house. Our money. And I took exactly what I was entitled to. The documentation is all there. Those divorce papers, I wasn't serious. I was just angry. You can't hold that against me. You had them drawn up 6 months ago. You've been planning this. The only reason you didn't file them yet was timing. You were waiting for the right moment to destroy me." His face crumbled. "Bonita, please. We can work this out. I made a mistake. I'm sorry about the trip. I'm sorry about all of it. Just come home and we'll talk." "What home, Gerald? I sold it. And I'm not coming back." He tried to push past Tom, and Susan was already on the phone with 911. Within minutes, 2 police cars pulled up. The officers talked to Tom first, then to me, then to Gerald. I showed them Margaret's legal separation filing and the protective order. The officers were professional and clear. "Sir, you need to leave. Your wife has a legal right to request no contact. If you continue to harass her, you'll be arrested." Gerald stood on the sidewalk, the police officers waiting to make sure he left. He looked at me through the doorway. For a moment, I saw the man I'd married 32 years ago, young, charming, full of promises. Then he said, "I never wanted this." "Neither did I said quietly. "But you chose it when you left me in that hospital bed. You chose it every time you spent money we didn't have. You chose it when you let your mother treat me like nothing. This is what your choices look like, Gerald." He got in his car and drove away. The police officers took a report, told me to call if he came back, and left. I went back inside, sat down at Susan's kitchen table, and started to shake. Tom brought me tea. Susan sat beside me. "You okay?" she asked. "I will be," I said. My phone buzzed. An email from Margaret. "Gerald's attorney just contacted me. He wants to negotiate the separation terms." "You did it, Bonita. You're in control now." I sipped my tea and looked at the clock. 24 hours ago, I'd been terrified. Now, I was free. Tomorrow, I was flying to Santa Fe to start my new life. The flight to Santa Fe left the next morning at 8. Susan and Tom drove me to the airport. I had 2 suitcases, my important documents in my carry-on bag, and a check for $385,000 safely deposited in my new bank account. "Call us when you land," Susan said, hugging me tight at the departure gate. "Thank you," I whispered. "For everything. You did this yourself," she said. "We just witnessed you becoming who you were always meant to be." The flight was smooth. I sat by the window and watched the landscape change below me, from the green suburbs of home to the brown and gold desert of New Mexico. When we landed, I turned on my phone and found 17 new messages. I ignored all of them except one. "Teresa. Landing soon? I'm at baggage claim." Teresa looked exactly like she had in college, just with silver hair now instead of brown. We'd roomed together for 4 years, stayed close through our 20s, then drifted as life took us in different directions. She'd moved to Santa Fe 15 years ago after her divorce, started a new life as a jewelry maker, remarried a wonderful man named Paul. We hugged in the middle of baggage claim, both of us crying. "I can't believe you're really here," she said. "Neither can I." She drove me to her home, a beautiful adobe house on the edge of town with views of the mountains. Paul greeted me warmly, helped carry my suitcases to their guest casita, a small separate building behind the main house. "Stay as long as you need," he said. "Seriously, this is your place now." That first week, I did nothing but rest. Really rest, for the first time in decades. I slept when I was tired. I ate when I was hungry. I took long walks in the high desert, breathing air that felt cleaner than anything I'd ever known. Teresa didn't push me to talk, but when I was ready, I told her everything. We spent an entire afternoon on her back patio, drinking iced tea and watching the sun move across the sky, while I poured out 32 years of marriage. "I'm so angry at myself," I said, "for staying so long, for not seeing it. You saw it, Teresa said gently. You just loved him more than you loved yourself. A lot of us make that mistake. Margaret called weekly with updates. Gerald's attorney was pushing for a settlement that would give Gerald the retirement accounts and me the house proceeds. Margaret shut that down immediately. The house proceeds are mostly yours based on your separate property contribution, she told me. We're going after half his retirement accounts, half the boat value, and he's responsible for the credit card debt he created. Gerald tried to fight it. He claimed I'd stolen marital assets. His lawyer filed motion after motion. But Margaret had documentation for everything. Every penny I'd taken was legally mine. Every decision I'd made was within my rights as a spouse. The boat was particularly satisfying. Gerald's precious boat, the one he'd bought without really consulting me. Margaret insisted he either sell it and split the proceeds or buy out my half. He couldn't afford to buy me out. He had to sell it. $21,000 came to me from that sale. The calls and messages from my family continued for 2 weeks, then slowly stopped. Bradley sent a long email on week 3. Mom, I've been thinking about everything. You were right. We took you for granted. I took you for granted. I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything. But I want you to know I'm trying to understand what we did to you. Claire and I are going to counseling. We're talking about family patterns, about how I learned to treat women from watching Dad treat you. I don't want to be like him. I'm sorry it took losing you to figure that out. I cried reading that email. Then I wrote back, thank you for saying that. I love you, Bradley. I always will, but I need time and space right now. Maybe someday we can rebuild our relationship, but it has to be different. I can't be the one who gives everything and gets nothing back, he responded immediately. I understand. Take all the time you need. It'll be here when you're ready. Samantha was quieter. She sent a few text messages, asking if I was okay, where I was staying. I responded briefly. I'm safe. I'm healing. I need space. She didn't push, which I appreciated. Gerald's messages were desperate at first, then angry, then silent. In week 4, he sent one final email. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want you to know that I see it now, what I did. Dorothy has been telling me for weeks that I threw away the best thing in my life. She's right. I'm sorry, Benita. I hope someday you can be happy. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say to him. In week 6, I started looking at houses. Teresa took me around Santa Fe, showing me different neighborhoods. I fell in love with a small 2-bedroom adobe in an older part of town. It had a walled courtyard, mountain views, and a second bedroom that would be perfect as an art studio. The price was $215,000. I made an offer. It was accepted. In week 8, I moved into my own home. My name on the deed. My mortgage payment. Manageable from the settlement money I'd received. My space. Teresa helped me furnish it simply. We hit estate sales and consignment shops, finding beautiful pieces that made the house feel like mine. I hung my grandmother's paintings. I set up my mother's china in the kitchen. I claimed my life. I started taking art classes at a community center, watercolor painting, something I'd always wanted to try but never had time for. I volunteered at a women's shelter, helping other women escape financial abuse. My story resonated with so many of them. I watched them find their courage, the same way I'd found mine. The divorce negotiations continued. Gerald fought every point, but Margaret was relentless. We had the evidence. We had the law on our side. In month 3, Samantha called. Mom, she said, her voice shaking. I need to tell you something. What is it? I saw Dad's phone. He left it on the table when he went to the bathroom. There were texts from a woman named Diane. Lots of texts. They've been seeing each other, Mom, since before the Europe trip. Maybe longer. I wasn't surprised, but I let her tell me. All those things Grandma said about you being controlling, about Dad deserving better. She was encouraging him to leave you. She knew about Diane. She introduced them. Samantha was crying now. I'm so sorry, Mom. You tried to tell us, and we didn't listen. We chose them over you, and you were right about everything. Thank you for telling me, I said quietly. Can you forgive me? I don't know yet, honey, but I appreciate you seeing the truth. We talked for an hour. Really talked, the way we hadn't in years. She told me she was in therapy, working through her relationship with her father. understanding how she'd been manipulated by Dorothy. Grandma had a stroke, Samantha said. Last week. Shay's in assisted living now. Dad is struggling to take care of her and manage everything. He keeps calling me and Bradley, asking for help. Are you helping him? No, she said firmly. I told him he made his choices. Now he has to live with them. I felt a strange mix of compassion and satisfaction. Gerald was learning what it felt like to be overwhelmed and alone. In month 4, the settlement was finalized. I received $392,000 total, including my share of retirement accounts, the boat sale, and other assets. Gerald was responsible for all the credit card debt had created. The divorce would be final in 60 days. Dorothy called once, from the assisted living facility. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Bonita, she said, her voice weak from the stroke. I wanted to say something to you. What is it, Dorothy? I was wrong. About you. About encouraging Gerald. I thought I was protecting my son, but I pushed him to destroy his life. He's miserable now. And it's my fault. I didn't know what to say. You were a good wife to him, she continued. A good mother to my grandchildren. I should have valued that. I should have valued you. Thank you for saying that. I said, I hope you recover well, Dorothy. I hung up and felt nothing. Not anger, not satisfaction. Just nothing. She was part of a life that didn't belong to me anymore. That evening, Teresa invited me to a gallery opening downtown. Just for fun, she said. Get out. See some art. Drink some wine. I almost said no. But something pushed me to go. The gallery was beautiful, full of abstract paintings and sculptures. I wandered through the rooms, glass of wine in hand, enjoying the colors and textures. Then I met Richard. He was standing in front of a painting of the desert at sunset, staring at it with complete absorption. He was tall, maybe 71 or 72, with silver hair and kind eyes. When I walked up beside him, he glanced over and smiled. Beautiful, isn't it? He said. Gorgeous. I agreed. We started talking about the painting, about art in general, about Santa Fe. He told me he owned the gallery, had opened it 3 years ago after his wife died of cancer. She always loved art, he said. This was her dream. I'm just keeping it alive for her. I told him I was new to Santa Fe, learning to paint, starting over after a divorce. Starting over at our age is brave, he said. Or crazy, I said. Maybe both. He smiled. Richard, Bonita. We talked for 2 hours, about loss, about rebuilding, about finding purpose after everything falls apart. When the gallery was closing, he walked me to my car. Would you like to have dinner sometime? He asked. I know a great little place that serves the best enchiladas in New Mexico. I surprised myself by saying yes. As I drove home that night, I saw a text from Bradley. A photo. Him holding a sign that said, I'm sorry, Mom. You deserved better. Thank you for teaching me what strength looks like. I pulled over and cried. Happy tears this time. The first happy tears I'd cried in years. My phone buzzed again. Claire had texted me. Bradley wanted you to see this. We're having a baby. It's a girl. We'd like to name her Bonita, if that's okay with you. I sat in my car in the dark Santa Fe night, stars brilliant overhead, and felt something shift inside me. The hard shell it built around my heart cracked open, just a little. I texted back. I would be honored. Then I drove home to my small adobe house, my safe space, my new beginning. The next 6 months unfolded like a dream I was afraid to wake from. My life in Santa Fe became richer than I'd imagined possible. Richard and I went to dinner that first night, to a small family-owned restaurant where the enchiladas were indeed the best I'd ever tasted. We talked for 3 hours, long after our plates were cleared. He told me about his wife Sarah, how they'd been married for 43 years, how cancer had taken her slowly and painfully. I was angry for a long time after she died, he said. Angry at the universe, at God if there is one, at the unfairness of it all. Sarah was the kindest person I'd ever known. Why her? How did you get past the anger? I asked. I didn't, really. I just learned to carry it differently. And I honored her by living. She made me promise, in those last weeks, that I wouldn't give up on life just because she had to leave it. He smiled sadly. So I opened the gallery. I travel. I say yes to things that scare me, like asking a beautiful woman to dinner, I blushed like a teenager. We started seeing each other regularly. Slow, respectful dates, art gallery openings, hiking in the mountains, cooking dinner at each other's houses. He never pushed for more than I was ready to give, and I appreciated that more than he knew. My painting was improving. It moved from the community center classes to private lessons with a local artist named Helen. She was 74, had been painting for 50 years, and had a way of seeing potential in my clumsy brushstrokes. "You're too controlled," she said one afternoon, watching me struggle with a landscape. "You're afraid to make mistakes. Art isn't about perfection, Bonita. It's about expression." She took my brush, loaded it with deep purple paint, and made a bold, sweeping stroke across my careful sky. I gasped. "There," she said. "Now it's interesting. Now it has emotion." Something clicked in my brain. I'd spent my entire life trying to be perfect, trying not to make mistakes, trying to keep everyone happy, and it had nearly destroyed me. I picked up the brush and added another bold stroke. Then another. The painting became something wild and unexpected and entirely mine. Helen smiled. "Now, you're painting." The women's shelter work became central to my life. I volunteered 3 afternoons a week, helping women who were escaping abusive situations. Financial abuse, like I'd experienced, but also physical and emotional abuse. I taught workshops on financial independence, on opening secret bank accounts, on documenting assets, on building escape plans. I watched women who'd felt powerless begin to see their own strength. One woman, Jessica, 34 years old with 2 young children, told me, "You saved my life. Literally. If I hadn't learned how to hide money, I never could have left him." "You saved your own life," I told her. "I just showed you some tools. You did the hard part." But I knew what she meant. Sometimes we need someone to show us the door before we can walk through it. Patricia had done that for me. My relationship with Bradley deepened slowly. We talked on the phone twice a week. He and Claire came to visit when I was 5 months into my new life. They stayed in a hotel, respecting my boundaries, but we spent 3 days together. Bradley had changed. Really changed. He was in therapy, working through the patterns he'd learned from Gerald. He apologized properly, not with excuses or justifications, just genuine remorse. "I watched Dad treat you like you didn't matter," he said. "And I learned that's how men treat women. I'm unlearning it now, but it's hard. I catch myself doing things, saying things, and I have to stop and think, is this respectful? Am I valuing Claire the way I should?" Claire squeezed his hand. "Hes trying so hard," she said. "And it's making our marriage stronger." They showed me ultrasound pictures of their baby girl, due in 3 months. They'd officially decided on the name Bonita Rose. Rose was Sarah's middle name, Bradley said. Claire's grandmother. "We wanted to honor both the strong women in our family," I cried. Happy tears were becoming more common. Samantha was slower to rebuild our relationship, but she tried. She sent cards, called occasionally, asked if she could visit. I wasn't ready yet, but I was getting there. Gerald and I had no contact. The divorce finalized in month 5. It was over, legally and emotionally. I heard through Bradley that Gerald had married Diane, quickly and quietly. They were already having problems. "Hes the same with her as he was with you," Bradley said. "Spending money they don't have, expecting her to manage everything, complaining when she can't fix his messes. She's already talking about leaving." I felt nothing hearing that. Not satisfaction, not pity, just distant acknowledgement that some people never change. Dorothy was still in assisted living, her stroke having left her partially paralyzed on one side. Samantha visited her regularly. Whatever reconciliation Dorothy wanted, whatever guilt she felt, it wasn't my responsibility to absolve. My health transformed along with my life. The stress weight I'd carried for years melted away. I lost 53 pounds without trying, just by living without constant anxiety. My blood pressure normalized. The chronic headaches I'd had for a decade disappeared. "Stress was literally killing you," my doctor said at my checkup. "Whatever you're doing now, keep doing it." Richard and I grew closer. 4 months into our relationship, he kissed me for the first time. We were hiking a trail in the mountains, reached a viewpoint with stunning vistas, and he turned to me and said, "I'm falling in love with you, Bonita. I thought you should know." My heart stuttered. "I'm falling in love with you too," I whispered. The kiss was gentle, sweet, respectful. Everything a kiss should be. We took our time. No rushing, no pressure. Just two people who'd survived loss and pain, finding softness with each other. In month 6, I woke up in my small adobe house and realized I was happy. Genuinely. Deeply happy. Not the fake happiness I'd performed for years. Not the forced cheerfulness of pretending everything was fine. Real happiness that came from living authentically, being valued, choosing myself. Teresa and I took weekly hikes in the mountains. Paul taught me to cook New Mexican cuisine, laughing when I couldn't handle the spice levels. I joined a book club, made friends, built a community. My art was getting better. Helen encouraged me to submit pieces to a local show. 3 of my paintings were accepted. At the opening, with Richard beside me and Teresa beaming proudly, I stood in front of my work and felt something I'd never felt before. Pride. In myself. For myself. The settlement money was invested wisely, generating enough income that I didn't have to work if I didn't want to. But I wanted to. I started writing articles about financial abuse, about recognizing the signs, about protecting yourself. 3 different magazines published my work. Women wrote to me, hundreds of them, telling me their stories, thanking me for giving them permission to save themselves. I answered every email. Then came the day that shifted everything again. I was at Richard's gallery, helping him hang a new show, when my phone rang. Bradley. Mom, he said, his voice strange. Claire's in labor. It's early. We're at the hospital. Can you come? I was on a plane 4 hours later. Bradley and Claire's daughter was born at 2:17 in the morning, 6 pounds, 4 ounces, tiny and perfect, and screaming with healthy lungs. They placed her in my arms, this tiny creature named after me, and I understood why people say your heart can break and heal at the same time. Hi, Bonita Rose, I whispered. I'm your grandma. Bradley was crying. Thank you for coming, Mom. Thank you for giving us another chance. I stayed for a week, helping with the baby, cooking meals, doing laundry, being the support they needed. But this time, it felt different. They appreciated it. They thanked me. They valued what I gave because I was giving it freely, not because it was expected or demanded. When I flew back to Santa Fe, Richard picked me up at the airport with flowers. How was it? He asked. Perfect, I said. And I was so happy to come home. Home! Santa Fe! My little adobe house. This life I'd built from the ashes of my old one. Richard drove me home, helped me carry my bags inside, and then took my hands. I've been thinking, he said. And I want to ask you something. No pressure, no expectations. Just a question. Okay. I bought a house. A bigger one. On 3 acres outside town. It has a guest house that would be perfect as an art studio. I'd like you to move in with me. We can take it slow, keep our own spaces if you want, but I want to wake up near you. I want to build a life with you. What do you think? I thought about the woman I'd been a year ago, lying in a hospital bed, abandoned and broken. I thought about the journey from there to here, the courage it took, the pain it required, the freedom it gave me. I think, I said slowly, that I need to think about it. Not because I don't want to, but because I want to make sure I'm choosing it for the right reasons. Because I want it, not because I'm afraid to be alone. Richard smiled. That's exactly the answer I hoped you'd give. Take all the time you need. 2 weeks later, I said yes. I'm standing in my art studio now, 8 months after moving into Richard's property. It's not Richard's property anymore in my mind. It's ours. We share everything, not because we have to, but because we choose to. The studio is in the guest house, exactly as Richard promised. North-facing windows flood the space with perfect light. My paintings cover the walls, works in progress and finished pieces. Helen says I'm ready for my first solo show. Richard is hosting it at his gallery next month. Life has a strange way of bringing you exactly what you need when you're finally ready to receive it. The divorce from Gerald finalized 10 months ago. The final settlement gave me $392,000, plus my share of his pension. I bought this property with Richard as equal partners. We drew up legal documents, protecting both our interests. I insisted on it, and he respected that. I never want you to feel trapped again, he said when we met with the lawyers. Gerald married Diane 6 weeks after our divorce was final. They separated 4 months later. Bradley tells me Gerald is struggling, financially and emotionally. Dorothy's assisted living care is expensive. Gerald's spending habits haven't changed. But now he doesn't have me to bail him out. I feel compassion for him. From a distance, but I don't feel responsible. His choices are his to live with. Dorothy died 2 months ago. A second stroke. Massive and quick. Samantha called to tell me. I sent flowers to the funeral but didn't attend. Some bridges burn for good reasons. My relationship with Bradley and Claire has become something real and healthy. They visit every few months, bringing baby Bonita. She's 8 months old now, starting to crawl, babbling nonsense that sounds like the most important conversation in the world. I spoil her shamelessly. Richard builds her wooden toys in his workshop. We're the grandparents we always wanted to be. Samantha and I are rebuilding slowly. She came to visit last month, alone, and we spent 3 days talking. Really talking. She apologized without excuses, and I accepted without conditions. We're not where we were, but we're somewhere new, somewhere honest. She told me she broke up with her boyfriend after realizing he treated her the way Gerald treated me. I saw the pattern, she said, and I chose differently. Because of you. That might be the thing I'm most proud of. My work at the women's shelter continues. I run weekly workshops now, teaching financial literacy and independence. 47 women have gone through my program. 47 women who now have secret bank accounts, exit strategies, and the knowledge that they deserve better. One woman, Maria, graduated from my program last month and left her abusive husband. She has 2 children, no college degree, and was terrified of being homeless. I helped her find resources, apply for assistance, locate affordable housing. Last week, she sent me a photo of her new apartment, tiny but clean and safe, her children smiling in the background. You saved us, her text said. You saved yourself. I wrote back. I just held the flashlight. But I know the truth. Sometimes we all need someone to hold the flashlight until we find our own way. My articles on financial abuse have been published in 6 magazines now. I'm writing a book, working title, The Price of Peace, Finding Financial Freedom After 60. 3 publishers have expressed interest. My agent thinks it will sell well. I hope it does. Not for the money, but because it means more women will read it. More women will realize they don't have to accept crumbs. More women will choose themselves. Richard and I are happy. Genuinely, quietly, sustainably happy. We have dinner parties with Teresa and Paul. We travel, taking road trips through the Southwest, visiting art museums and national parks. We cook together, paint together, sit in comfortable silence together. He treats me like imprecious. Not fragile, but valuable. There's a difference. Last week, he asked if I'd ever consider getting married again. Maybe, I said. Someday, when I'm ready to trust that completely again. I'll wait. He said simply. I'm not going anywhere. And I believe him. My health is better than it's been in 20 years. I hike 5 miles 3 times a week. I sleep through the night. My doctor says my biological markers suggest I'm healthier at 61 than I was at 50. Whatever you changed in your life, she said. It's added years to your lifespan. I changed everything. That's what I want to tell the woman who's reading this story, or listening to it, wondering if she can do what I did. You can. It won't be easy. It will be terrifying. You'll doubt yourself 1,000 times. People will tell you you're being rash, dramatic, selfish. They'll say you're throwing away your family, your security, your commitments. Let them say it, because here's what I learned. I spent 32 years being whoever everyone else needed me to be. The woman in that hospital bed wasn't me anymore. She was a shell I'd been hiding inside, getting smaller and smaller until I almost disappeared. When they left me there, broken and alone, they thought they were abandoning me. They didn't realize they were setting me free. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually the best thing, because it forces you to finally choose yourself. And that choice changes everything. I'm not the same woman I was a year ago. That woman was afraid of being alone, afraid of financial insecurity, afraid of disappointing people, afraid of taking up space. This woman, the one I am now, isn't afraid anymore. I take up space. I paint with bold colors. I speak my truth. I set boundaries. I choose people who value me and release people who don't. I invest in myself. I build a life that doesn't require me to shrink to fit into it. And it's the best thing I've ever done. Last month, Bradley called with news. He and Claire are pregnant again. Another girl. They're naming her Sarah, after Richard's late wife. Richard cried when Bradley asked permission. "Your mother taught me what real strength looks like," Bradley told Richard. "And you're teaching me what real love looks like. We want to honor that." This morning, I woke up in the bed I share with Richard, sunlight streaming through the windows, the smell of coffee drifting from the kitchen where he was making breakfast. I walked to my studio and looked at the painting I'm working on. It's a desert landscape at sunset, bold purples and oranges and golds, wild and imperfect, and entirely mine. Just like this life. My phone buzzed. A text from a woman named Jennifer Hood read one of my articles. "I'm in the hospital. My husband left me here to go on a golf trip with his friends. Reading your story, I realize this isn't okay. I don't know what to do, but I know I can't keep living like this. Thank you for showing me I'm not crazy." I wrote back immediately. "You're not crazy. You deserve better. You deserve people who choose you. Start documenting everything. Open a separate bank account. Find a lawyer. Build your exit plan. You can do this. I did it at 60. You can do it at any age." She responded, "I'm scared." "Being scared is okay." I wrote, "Do it scared. Do it terrified, but do it. Choose yourself. It will be the best decision you ever make." I set my phone down and picked up my paintbrush. There's a life lesson in every story, but this one is simple. You teach people how to treat you. And sometimes, teaching them means walking away from anyone who refuses to learn. I spent decades waiting for Gerald to see my value. I finally realized he never would, because he didn't want to. His life was easier when I was small. So I made myself big. I claimed my space. I took what was mine. I built a life that honors who I really am. And it turns out, I'm pretty amazing. So are you. Whatever you're facing, whatever hospital bed you're lying in, literal or metaphorical, while the people who should love you are somewhere else living their best lives, remember this. You matter. Your pain matters. Your needs matter. And you don't have to set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. Choose yourself. Fight for yourself. Save yourself. Because no one else will do it for you. And you deserve someone in your corner who values you. Even if that someone has to be you. Especially if that someone has to be you. I look out at the mountains, the endless New Mexico sky, and I think about that woman in the hospital bed. I want to go back and tell her it's going to be okay, better than okay. But she had to walk this path herself to get here. We all do. The journey from abandoned to free. From invisible to empowered. From tolerating crumbs to demanding the whole feast. That's a journey only you can take. But if my story helps light the way, even a little, then every painful step was worth it. I'm Bonita. I'm 61 years old. I'm an artist, a grandmother, a partner to a man who cherishes me, a friend to women finding their courage, and most importantly, I'm mine, completely, utterly, finally mine. And that's the best thing I've ever been. Now I have a question for you. Have you ever had to choose between your own well-being and keeping everyone else happy? What did you choose, and how did it change your life? Share your story in the comments. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this story resonated with you, please like this video and subscribe to hear more stories about finding strength in impossible situations. Share this with someone who needs to know they're not alone, that choosing yourself isn't selfish, it's survival. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it reminds you that it's never too late to claim your life, to choose yourself, to become who you were always meant to be. May you find the courage to paint your life in bold colors. May you surround yourself with people who see your value. And may you always, always remember that you deserve to take up space in this world. Be well, be brave, and most of all, be yours.